Hello, this is Eileen, the environmental educator, and in this video, we're going to talk about how Biden's climate change agenda has been derailed. It started on June 30th when the Supreme Court dealt a massive blow to Biden's climate change agenda. And it says here that in the majority opinion, the justices ruled the Environmental Protection Agency was not specifically authorized by Congress to reduce carbon emissions when it was set up in 1970. The ruling leaves the Biden administration dependent on passing legislation if it wants to implement sweeping regulations to curb emissions. It further says that the decision of such a magnitude and consequence rests with Congress itself or an agency acting pursuant to a clear delegation from that representative body. The justices added they doubted Congress intended to delegate the question of how much coal-based generation there should be over the coming decades to any administrative agency. So that was back in June, and then right here, this is Reuters. This is back in June too. This is June 30th. It says that yeah, but is that going to stop the bureaucrats in Washington from implementing their their authoritative rule over us? This right here says the U.S. Supreme Court's decision to limit the powers of the nation's top environmental regulator to curb carbon emissions will force the Biden administration to take more creative measures to reach its ambitious goals to combat climate change. Now, if you've watched my other videos, I can assure you this is the Barack .3 administration. And since Barack's first presidential campaign, Barack has refused, like all environmental voices have since November of '93, the environmental education and agenda that would have already solved our environmental problems long ago. Clean energy is at the last of the agenda because it hasn't been achieved in 5 decades, and at best its implementation of a clean energy utopia is at best always a decade away, and it still hasn't been achieved in decades of efforts. But the first 5 on my agenda are achievable immediately and would have already solved our problem. Ending global environmental illiteracy, including of the top people running the occupation right now, and ending our disposable society. You know how much carbon emissions that would reduce by not constantly 24/7, 365 manufacturing to dispose of? But not just the disposable products, but their packaging, their transportation packaging, all of the garbage bags that we throw them into, and all of their packaging and transportation packaging, and so on. And even recycling is not responsible. That in itself is more manufacturing processes to make one product that probably should have never been here into another product that probably shouldn't be here. Okay, so that's not a solution. Individual cooperation is, because our environmental problems are the direct result of each person's irresponsible actions, which are very easy to change if we just took personal responsibility, if you were encouraged to, if you were led by example. And then hemp can be used for everything. And if we got on this agenda back in November '93, when Gore first started refusing it, Barack would have never even been talking about the environment because we would have already solved this problem. So, the solutions the world needs have been refused for long before this current occupation. But right here, this article, it says here this is bad news for the occupation, and who came into office with the aim of slashing power sector emissions to net zero by 2035. And if we just got individual cooperation to turn off 40% of unused electricity, the lights on with nobody home, no one in the room, the TV on, no one's watching, 40% of electricity use is estimated to be unused. That right there. But have they ever asked you to do that? No. No, 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 no. But that is way more of a solution than their, clean energy utopia. But it says that this right here will make the EPA go back to the drawing board. I thought that this right here actually took the EPA out of it. It will make Congress go back to the drawing board to come up with legislation. The court ruled that the EPA doesn't have the power to mandate, to regulate carbon emissions. So there's no EPA going back to the drawing board, but this is propaganda outlet, so that's what you're going to get here. It says, without broad authority to carry out a nationwide shift from coal generation to cleaner sources, the EPA may focus on individual plants, setting new efficiency rates that could force the dirtiest plants to shutter. I, how about the EPA just getting on solutions the world needs? The EPA won't do that, okay? Not even under Gina McCarthy, who's one of Biden's top climate advisors. She is a complete proven failure. That is how you get to work anywhere in DC, anywhere on the climate, in any private sector organization. You have to be a fool that has no solutions, that just screams for solutions. And everyone working in this occupation has no solutions except clean energy, which is not a solution. It hasn't been achieved in decades. It isn't going to be achieved for decades to come, and it is instead an agenda to get us out of power while they are, working on this utopia that they have. But Karen Sokol, S-O-K-O-L, a professor at Loyola University, New Orleans, agreed. The agency is going to have to work around and dance around hitting carbon head on, which is really the only meaningful way to respond to the climate crisis. That's ridiculous. Karen apparently doesn't know what all environmental voices have refused since November '93. This is how you respond to the environmental situation out there, okay? But Karen isn't aware because nobody out there will tell you what they are refusing. So Biden said in a statement that his administration was reviewing the Supreme Court rulings and studying its options. While this decision risks damaging our nation's ability to keep our air clean and combat climate change, I will not relent in using my lawful authority to protect public health and tackle the climate crisis. Oh, okay. Except actually implementing sound, logical, reasonable, rational solutions that could be implemented immediately right now and could get immediate betterment right now and would have solved our problems decades ago had anyone allowed solutions since November '93 or Barack since his first presidential campaign. Okay, so yeah, Biden. Okay, just here is a statement from the White House. This was July 15th, 2022. Action on climate change and clean energy remains more urgent than ever. So let me be clear. If the Senate will not move to tackle the climate crisis and strengthen our domestic clean energy industry, I will take strong executive action to meet this moment. My actions will create jobs, improve our energy security, bolster domestic manufacturing and supply chains, protect us from oil and gas price hikes in the future, and address climate change. I will not back down. The opportunity to create jobs and build a clean energy future is too important to relent. Oh, okay. So, suddenly he's caring about gas and oil prices in the future, though not now, because, in this utopia, it's in the future. and prices could be brought down immediately if he didn't keep provoking the bear over there in Moscow. But, again, leaving out everything that has been prevented. Okay, their solutions are not solutions, and they won't allow real solutions. It's just very scary. So this is a Citizen Free Press article here. Um, Biden bowed to political reality on Friday, conceding he had been unable to persuade a holdout coal state Democrat, Joe Manchin, I don't know how to say that guy's name, Manchin, or any Republican in the Senate to back legislation that had been his greatest hope to confront the completely fake, made-up climate crisis. Of course, this is a right-leaning, article. So I'm not saying that we're in crisis. I'm not saying that it's made up. I'm not saying it's completely fake. That's what the anti have any any responsibility to respect the planet. They have none of that. So they spew their own propaganda here. So but it says that he's going to take executive action to meet the moment because, that's what dictators do. They go and they then just ruled by decree. So then, of course, now, Manchin here, he is blamed. Manchin balks at climate and tax pieces of Biden's agenda. And then Mr. BS here says Manchin sabotage the president's agenda. That's a July 17th Yahoo article right here. Oh, look at Mr. BS himself out there on the news. Another July 17th out there article. Manchin is intentionally sabotaging the president's agenda. Yeah. Oh, okay. Mr. BS, who, like, I don't know, 2014, 2013 maybe, I actually called in to the Thom Hartmann show. He did Fridays with Bernie. And I had called in like 2 weeks earlier. And Tom pretty much, hung up on me, telling me he wished me well. Tom's always out there screaming for solutions. I'm like, hey, Tom, this is what the world needs. You can't argue against the environmental education and agenda. You just can't. You just can't. So they hang up on you. And then 2 weeks later, I called back in with when Mr. BS here was on the program, and I couldn't even believe I got through, but I was absolutely hung up on that time. And Mr. BS's office emailed me, is this you? Because I emailed them at the time too, and I said yes, and I never heard a thing back from them, with the actual real solutions the world needs. Now, Mr. BS has been holding this up since 2014, 8 years himself. The light years best environmental education and agenda on the planet. But now Mr. BS is out here blaming Joe Manchin. Yeah, because he sabotaged the president's agenda. The president doesn't have an agenda. Mr. BS says what the American people want and what the majority of us in the Democratic caucus want. So you're in Congress there to represent people as a national public servant, and you're mandated to vote with the party because Mr. BS wants you to? Mr. BS, who can't be bothered with real solutions? Okay. But here he is, he's out there getting a lot of press. It's, he says, there's more heat waves and you have to look at more flooding. This is an existential threat to humanity. Well, you know who in part caused that threat? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. This man here, by himself refusing solutions. This guy proves time and time again he can go out there and he can get press And he could, get solutions, a real climate agenda, a real environmental, not climate agenda, but environmental agenda, you know, to the people. Will he? No, absolutely not. What is the only thing you hear Mr. BS talking about? Oh, number 6, clean energy, refusing actual, real, immediately implementable solutions. So this is where we stand right now. The Supreme Court, they did a massive blow to Biden and to bureaucracies who constantly overstep their bounds and just decide because they made rules and regulations and have fines and have armed, they have armed personnel to come out and tell you at the point of a weapon what you're going to do. So people cheerled this Supreme Court ruling, hoping that it would bring in a lot of the bureaucracies out there. But fools like Mr. BS, are out there blaming others, refusing to tell the world what it is he's holding up. And the same thing here for the White House occupation. Right there. That is the part. Now, right here, that this man refused solutions too, all the way back when he was in office. Okay, so they're the ones that are sabotaging environmental betterment, and never forget it. And you're not going to hear that truth anywhere but here, because no independent media, not even Project Veritas, will tell you the truth and silence all of this talk and then actually get solutions that the world needs implemented. So stay tuned, people.